She was the flawless, porcelain-faced goddess of French cinema, but behind those deep blue eyes and pure innocence lay madness, brutal betrayal, disgusting AIDS rumors, and severe tax evasion crimes. Welcome to Iconic Lives. Today, we will discuss the uncensored story of Isabelle Adjani, the highly tragic and dark legend who was Europe's most desired woman, brought to the terrifying edge of losing her mind, ruthlessly abandoned while pregnant, and turned criminal. Being born as the daughter of an Algerian immigrant father and a German mother was not a fairy tale for her, but a dark nightmare of exclusion. She grew up in the freezing cold slums of Paris, inside a highly strict, oppressive, and totally loveless home. Crushed between her father's endless violent anger and her mother's deep sadness, that little girl completely withdrew into herself to survive. Her massive beauty was not a blessing, but a bloody, terrifying curse. Stepping into her career at just 14, she immediately met the predatory and pedophilic face of the industry. Her beautiful body was ruthlessly commodified under the greedy, perverted stares of old directors and powerful producers. While marketed as a flawless Lolita in front of the camera, the disgusting psychological pressures she suffered behind the scenes totally poisoned her fragile mind. The cinema world was a demonic machine violently exploiting her youth. When she starred in Truffaut's The Story of Adele H., portraying an obsessed and crazy woman caused her to cross her very own dark boundaries. The heavy psychotic states she entered for the role slowly began to shatter her fragile real-life psychology. While playing a character losing her mind for true love, her own deep inner traumas also bled right to the surface. She was not just acting, she was playing a highly dangerous game in the dark corridors of her mind. The 1981 movie Possession is the most terrifying, bloodiest, and highly traumatic descent into hell in her entire sad life. Psychopathic director Andrzej Żuławski wanted her to play not just a woman's pure madness, but the birth of a real demon. This film was not art, it was a brutal psychological rape completely committed against Adjani's soul. The heavy pressure and dark manipulation on set ruthlessly and permanently severed the actress's ties to the real world. The movie's famous subway underpass scene is one of the most disturbing and blood-curdling extreme moments in cinema history. Adjani wasn't faking a scream in that scene. She was literally vomiting the total shattering of her own sad soul. That wild state of absolute madness she experienced while crashing into walls and thrashing in blood was completely real. The director pushed her to the deadly edge of losing her mind. She absolutely never left that dirty subway. When the brutal filming of Possession finally ended, Adjani experienced an absolute mental collapse and total destruction. She had to undergo heavy psychological treatment for years just to escape this demonic role and survive that horrific trauma. She locked herself in completely dark rooms for months, waking up with dark nightmares of the manipulation she suffered. The bright cinema world had ruthlessly run her fragile brain and soul through a bloody meat grinder. By 1987, she became the tragic victim of one of the most terrifying and brutal media lynchings in French history. All the newspapers and televisions in the country spread a disgusting rumor claiming she had secretly contracted AIDS and was rotting away on her dark deathbed. This blood-curdling lie grew so incredibly massive that she was rumored to have died secretly in a hospital. Society's bloodthirsty, sick fantasy turned her life into a pitch-black living hell. To stop these wild and absolutely disgusting AIDS slanders, she was completely forced to experience the most humiliating moment of her life. She appeared on a national television channel watched by millions, desperately begging to prove that she was alive and not a rotting corpse. Being brutally forced to prove that her own body and blood were entirely clean in front of the whole country opened a massive wound in her soul. She was a deeply bleeding victim that day. Her boundary-pushing performance in the movie Queen Margot was the wildest expression of incest, betrayal, and bloody sexuality. That extreme eroticism she displayed right in the middle of a pool of blood, among torn corpses, was absolute proof of how her beautiful body was heavily consumed by the cinema industry. These extremely psychopathological characters she played acted as a highly toxic and deeply addictive heavy drug, constantly feeding her dark mental state. The handsomest and highly powerful men in the world lined up for her utterly flawless body. However, toxic relationships she experienced with famous actors like Warren Beatty made her feel like nothing more than a shiny, cheap toy. In Hollywood's completely fake plastic world, she deeply hated being seen merely as an exotic sexual object, adorning men's dark fantasies. Yet, despite this massive hatred, she could absolutely never escape that toxic, addictive cycle. Her passionate love affair with Daniel Day-Lewis would become the biggest and bloodiest dark disaster of her life. This relationship wasn't true romance. It was a highly toxic war where two unstable souls brutally tore each other apart. Adjani had completely surrendered to this man, utterly destroying her own identity for him. But when she got pregnant, that grand love story suddenly turned into a disgusting betrayal. He instantly abandoned her entirely defenseless. Allegedly, Day-Lewis was not even brave enough to do this devastating breakup face to face. He ripped his pregnant lover out of his life with just a cold fax message. This inhumanly brutal abandonment absolutely and forever shattered Adjani's extremely fragile psychology. That legendary French goddess, worshipped by millions, had instantly turned into a pathetic, rejected, and deeply deceived woman all alone with a growing baby in her womb. Betrayal killed her. Years later, her deep love affair with musician Jean-Michel Jarre also ended with the exact same disgusting betrayal. However, this time she was not a silent, crying victim. The vengeful, dark woman inside her awakened. By exposing his cheating to magazines in all its naked truth, she ruthlessly destroyed that fake man's image. This massive revenge was the bloodiest proof that she was now an extremely dangerous and heavily wounded lioness, tolerating no toxic lies. As time marched on ruthlessly, not only her heart, but also her financial life was completely dragged into a totally rotten swamp. In 2023, that massive scandal that shook France suddenly exploded. The flawless actress was officially tried for money laundering and massive tax evasion. That great and sacred icon had turned into a dirty criminal, hiding millions in offshore accounts. When fame's glorious cloak finally dropped, a desperate fraudster emerged below. The suspended prison sentence and massive financial fines handed down by the court permanently destroyed her utterly flawless reputation in the public eye. Hiding €2 million under fake debts and shamelessly defrauding the tax office was not a fitting end for cinema's noble queen. The woman who played terrifying demons in dark roles for years had made a dirty deal with the devil in real life. This disgusting crime was the absolute final nail in her cold coffin. When her legendary beauty began to fade, the dark fear of aging became the wildest and most terrifying monster possessing her mind. The massive dark sunglasses and huge hats completely hiding her face were actually a pathetic mourning for their totally lost youth. Her frozen face, heavily inflated by plastic surgery, was the most tragic proof of the industry's psychological terror. Her natural beauty had been violently replaced by a fearful, highly artificial plastic mask. Today, she lives in absolute isolation and deep paranoia alongside those massive and incredibly dark ghosts of the past. She completely escapes from the bright spotlights, from people, and especially from the highly toxic touch of men. The goddess who brought the world to its knees with her flawless body is now a desperate prisoner trapped in a pitch-black dungeon she built. The cinema blood-sucking machine fully exploited her soul, leaving nothing but an emptied, elderly shell. Isabelle Adjani is a highly tragic masterpiece who heavily paid for her talent with her sanity and for her beauty by brutal betrayals and dirty crimes. She was absolutely never that joyful, totally fake woman of the glittering red carpets. She was a deeply sinful legend full of dark secrets, screaming in subway underpasses, abandoned while pregnant, and hiding millions. The cinema industry made her a god, but her very own inner darkness turned her into a dark demon. As iconic lives, today we expose the deep psychological torture, wild AIDS slanders, that disgusting betrayal by facts, and the shameful tax evasion crimes completely hiding behind that porcelain face. She is the most tragic cinema icon, proving to the entire world just how totally rotten and highly toxic the lie of perfection truly is. Always be ready to face those terrifying monsters lurking under shiny masks. Goodbye for now, my friends, and stay with the brutal truth.